Good morning, everybody. It's Reva with Quality Sewing and Vacuum, and we have an exciting day. Today, we're going to talk about a four-letter word that I don't like very much, and that is mend. Okay, so we're actually going to do hem, and that's a three-letter word, so I'm okay with it. Hey, so what we're going to talk about is how to mend jeans. Okay, so I have just a regular pair of jeans here. And we're going to talk about how to replicate this hem up where you want it to be. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to try this on your person. If it's a brand new pair, I suggest you wash them and dry them as you normally do. I tend to do that in the most abusive way, so that way if it's going to shrink, I get as much of it out of it. So I'll like wash it maybe on hot, and then I dry it on as high as I can because I never know how the laundry's going to go. But you want to get any shrink out of it as possible. Now, if you're working with something other than a denim, it's going to be easier. It's not going to be as difficult to match thread, things like that. But we're going to talk about how to do that too. So get this on your person, put it on your human, and then you want to fold up the hem while it's on them and make sure that it hits where you need it to hit on their shoe. If they're wearing, have them put the shoes on they normally wear too, so that way you see that it hits right where you want it to be. Now I'm going to go up a little bit more because I'm not putting this on a real human. I'm just doing it, and I'm going to just go up so I have enough so I can show you all the fun details. So I'm going to go ahead and I want to get this kind of put where I want it to be, and I'm going to take some clips and just clip it into place. Okay. And this is not an exact, we're not cutting here, we're just getting this for our reference so we can know what to do with it next. Okay, so you would do that on both legs, have them on and make them sure they try them on, make sure they're in the right spot, then get them out of the jeans because you can't hem them while they're in them, and then we're gonna turn them wrong side out. So I'm just gonna pull this through. Now, what I want to do traditionally or typically, when you hem them, you're gonna have an even amount all the way around the hem that you need to take up. If they have, I don't know, if they like their jeans to be higher in the front and lower around the heel, you might have someone picky like that, then you may have to adjust this, but I want this to be balanced. So let's find out how wide I'm at. I'm at 3 3/4. So what I want to do is go ahead and find my, 2 3/4. There's 2 3/4. I think this side looked a little high to me. It is. So I'm going to take that out and I'm going to bring that down just a little bit so I get it more to the spot that I need it at. And then let me do one last check to make sure that I'm even all the way around. And this one's a little low, so I'm going to take them up a little bit. Okay, so that's where we need our hem to be. But what we need to know is, how was this hem created? So for that, let's just take a look at this one. And you can do this ahead of time before you mark the hem. But what we're going to want to do is go in and we want to remove this hem. So I'm going to take my seam ripper. Now you can come in and you can see each little stitch, and you can do it this way if that makes you comfortable, and just clip every couple stitches, right? And then you're going to be able to go in and open it up. Or if you want to, you can use a surgical seam ripper, which is my friend, and get it up gently up into that spot, and then you can just work your way down and unpick that hem. So now this is really, really sharp, and so you want to be careful with it, obviously. And, oh, I should show you this. When I have it in here, I'm holding it perfectly flat against the fabric, and it's flat in there. And I kind of support it with my finger on the back side, but just give it a little saw and you'll cut that thread. But if if you're using one of these, what you want to do is make sure that you change the blade often, because once it gets dull, that's when you're going to slip, and you're going to, you'll end up cutting your fabric, right? Or if you don't have it, if there's a tuck or it's bent back or something like that, then you might also cut your fabric. Okay, so let me get that. I'll show you sometime how I use this to undo non-denim seams, and it's so fast and easy. Okay, I think I've got enough to just show you what I want to do here. So I'm going to come in here and I want to open this all the way up. So here's the one fold, the second fold, and that's where the stitch is. And I do want to go a little bit more because I want to get in there really easy. So let's just keep going. All right. Oh, and if you have any questions as we go, please feel free to pop those into the comment box, and we'll try to answer them as we go. Let me put my lid on that. That would be the best thing to do, wouldn't it? Okay, so now let's open that up. And I'm going to figure out how far from, this is my final fold right there, right? That's what the hem was. So let's find out how far from that fold I have that I need to trim. So that looks like 1 1/8. So what I want to do then on here is come by and use 1 1/8. Now this is pretty, it's not going anywhere. It's not fluid fabric. It's really pretty stiff fabric. So I'm confident that I can take that out. And I'm going to come here 1 1/8. And I am just going to mark my fabric with my chocolate liner. And do 1 1/8 here too. Now, I had mentioned that mend is a 4-letter word in my vocabulary because I really don't like to do it. I don't enjoy mending, but you know, this is making it wearable and it's new, so it's all fine. And you know what? Sometimes we just have to do things like this, don't we? Some of us actually have to let them out because they're too short, but that's a whole different thing. Okay, so I have my cut line now. Now we can come in with our scissors. I'm just going to cut down into this so I can get to it. And I'm going to cut across and just cut right on that line. Now our iron is going to come into play here too. Let me get him warming up. And these Kai scissors are really great for this because this is a really thick fabric. This is a heavy denim. This is a pair of Levi's. So you know how heavy those are. They're really pretty stout, but this cuts pretty well. Okay, so you can save that, do whatever you want to with it. But what I'm going to do is I want to get this pressed into place. So let's see. Oh my good, my iron is nice and hot. I'm going to press that down. And it's okay if we use, let me turn on the steam, and that might be nice. See if I can get some steam in there. Flip it over. It's so thick, we're going to have to do it from the opposite side as well. All right. All right. Okay, so now we have this, so it's pressed, it's ready to go. And our other one told us that it folds down halfway and then it turns, right? So we want to fold this down in. You can either measure it, or what I like to do, let me turn it here so maybe you can see a little bit better. I take the raw edge and just stuff it into the fold. See that? Just stuff it down into that fold, and then we'll put a clip in it. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Now this is a bulky seam. There's not much we're going to be able to do about that guy, but I am going to show you something else here in a minute with how to work with bulky seams. And I'm going to clip on either side of that because that is so full and chubby. And then I'm going to bring that down into the hem area. And I missed some here. Look how it's popping back up. I didn't get a good bite on that fabric. So I'm going to go ahead and do that again. Now, when we come to this one, we can alleviate some of the thickness in there by actually trimming out the seam allowance. So it needs to bend over and over again, and that would make it at 9 layers of denim, and we really don't need that much denim in there. So I'm going to clip that off, and then here's my halfway point. So I kind of clipped to the halfway point, and I made sure I came back up to real seam allowance where it's going to get stitched over, right? Okay, let me fix this one. Now, another thing that you can do is you can use a fabric glue stick, and I like to use the Quilter Select because it dries very quickly, and that is a really nice way to secure your seams as well. Okay, so then we've got that, and I do like to press that, but now that I have clips, I'll have to just take the clip out. So let me do a couple of pressings. I'm going to leave this laying down because the gravity of that will help that stay into place a little bit. So I'll just give that a press, then put the clip back in before I rotate to the next spot. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. I'm left-handed. I should really do this upside down and backwards for you. All right. That one started to get away from me, so I'm going to tuck him back in. And you also want to make sure that your seam line lines up with the seam line that is up on the pant leg too. Now, if you have a pant that's really flared, this might be a little bit more of a challenge, but this is fairly straight because it's just a standard pair of jeans, so we don't really have that much challenge there. All right, so we've gone around pretty much enough, I think. And so let's go ahead and pop this on. Now, one thing to notice about our hem is that it is a consistent width all the way across. So we are going to remember that when we go to stitch. But before we stitch, let's talk about the thread. So the thread, this thread, here's a little piece of it. Let me grab a piece of thread. I want to show you the difference. Okay, all right. So here's a standard piece of thread, and look at how thick that piece of thread is. See how much different that is? Because this is a top stitching thread. So in our world, there is a better look at how thick that is. In our world, it's hard to find thread that is as thick and the same color as you'll find on a pair of jeans, right? So if you're working with a different pant, you might not have as much of a challenge because it might be standard weight thread, or it might be khaki, or it might be, a color that matches the fabric as opposed to a contrast like this is. So let's talk about how we're going to match that. So first, let's look at the color. So I pulled some different threads here for us to look at color. This one is really a great match for that, but this is an embroidery thread and it's shiny. So do you want it to be shiny? You might not, right? And then here's some other options of the thread. This one I think is too light, a little bit too buttery, but this one would be okay. So those would be good threads, but again, they're just that thin. They're a thin thread. They're not thick and heavy like that. And they have the shine because they're an embroidery thread. These are a quilting thread. And so these ones are a 60 weight thread. And so they are thinner. And again, they're not exactly a perfect match. This one's a little bit better than this one, but it's really, really fine. So let me tell you what we can do with finer threads. And I'm going to just set these aside. This is a standard weight sewing thread. And here are some pieces that I thought were kind of close. So this one is real, I thought, in my mind, I thought that one would work, but it's really too yellow. This has more orange to it, so I got rid of that one. And then there is orange in there, but I thought this was too bright, so I got rid of that one in my mind. And then I came to these. I liked this one. It's kind of dark, but it's too dark, and this one is too bright. And they're also too thin. So take a look at what I ended up doing. And I have got it wrapped around my foot. Hold on. Let me take the foot off and get that out. There we go. Okay, put that back on. When I tried to go from the angle, I had messed it up. But look, when you put them together, they kind of make the right color and they make up the thickness. So depending on if that darker piece is on top or the lighter piece is on top, it's going to change. And it will actually blend in a little bit better. So let's do a test run. We can do a test run right on this fabric, and that is fine. And I'm going to slow the speed down on this machine a little bit. I'm going to make my stitch length a little bit longer. I'm guessing that this is about a 3 millimeter stitch length. It might be longer. We will find out. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a test. Okay, so let's see what we've got here. Okay, so that's not too bad. And I think the stitch length is about the right length. So that's good. Now, maybe I could have gone with a little bit browner thread and that might have matched a little bit better, but I still think that's pretty good. And the stitch length, maybe I need to go a little bit longer. Let's do another test really fast and see what we got. All right. I like that stitch length better. Now, there's a couple of reasons why you use a longer stitch length. One is it's more visible. So a longer stitch length, the thread carries along the top of your fabric so you can see it better, whereas a short stitch just kind of piles into the fibers and you can't see it. And also you're working with a thicker thread, so it needs more space. Now, I threaded this machine with the 2 spools of thread, and I treated them just like it was one thread. I went down through the whole threading process and through the needle one time. I didn't do separate. And I want to show you something. This is really cool. This is the new Yaya Han machine from, it's a Burnett B79. And this is really cool. It has an automatic needle threader. And when you go to engage the needle threader, look, it gives you the instructions on how to use the needle threader. And when you're done and put it away, that message goes away. How cool is that? I just think that is the neatest thing ever. Okay, so let's look at our pants now. So we've got our hem, we've got it pressed. I'm now going to, I think I'm going to take our little table off. And I'm at a bad angle. Hold on. I just don't want to send everything flying. Okay, so what we're going to do is, if you don't have a free arm machine, you can sew like this if you want to. You can sew with the fabric up on the top of the machine. Now I'm going to take it and I'm going to actually turn my pants right side out again, being careful not to disturb my hem placement. And since this does have the free arm, it's pretty nice. Okay, so now the inseam is the one with the the welt seam. So I'm gonna start sewing here, because that way my start and stop will be right in that spot. Now, easiest way to get this in the right spot is I'm gonna put this under the needle, and I'm gonna test to make sure the needle's going into where that seam is, and I'm gonna take a look at where the edge of that hem is hitting. And you have markings. Let me take it out so you can see. There are markings on your presser, your needle plate, and you can see them on this side too. There are markings, and so find yourself the appropriate marking, and you're going to line up to that. Okay, so I'm just going to slip the jeans right on, and I'm going to take this clip out and come back to this area here and get that in there. Put my foot down. Yep, that's where I want it. And now this machine has the option to use with or without a foot control. I do prefer a foot control, but you don't have to use a foot control. So now I'm just going to stitch, and I'm going to stop just for a second. I want to put the needle down because I do want to show you something else. If you take a look at the back of the machine right here, we have a dual feed, and I'm going to raise the foot up, and I want to get that engaged. Let's see if I get that. I got to get them up higher. Hold on. Let me take the fabric out for a minute. There we go. So I want to get that engaged. So that way it's a walking foot, and it's going to be able to get me up and over all those thick seams that we're going to be working with. So now that it's engaged, when I start to sew, you're going to see it working, and it actually feeds the fabric on the top as the regular feed dogs are working on the bottom. So I'm going to just manipulate my little clip is getting caught there. There we go. And we're just going to stitch around. Okay, now when you get to the lump, we want to be cautious, but that dual feed helps feed up and over. And I'm going to stop right here because I got to take a clip out. Did you see how that went up and over? You didn't have to worry about it so much. It's really pretty handy. Another thing that you can do to make sure that you are watching the correct line is take maybe a piece of pink tape, the embroidery perfection tape or washi tape, whatever you might have, and run that on your needle plate at the exact spot you want to have it stop at. Okay, now I'm going to see if I can get enough of this over here. And this is really thick because remember, I didn't trim away that seam allowance there, and I probably should have. And needle. If I didn't mention it, I'm working with a top stitch needle. Top stitch needle size 100 because this is a lot of thick layers and it's really heavy duty, so the 100 helps with that. Top stitch has a larger eye that will accommodate the thick top stitch style threads. And let me see how he got out of there. And then it has a larger shaft down the front of the needle to work with that thickness of thread as well. And I want to go. Okay, now I'm going to stop right there. My foot is getting a little bit caught up on my jeans, so I just want to give it a second to get over that. I turned down the speed there. There it goes. Look at it. Oh, see, that's a pulse motor. That's pretty cool. So what that did is that has told me that I've hit a spot that's too thick. So instead of it, the machine, I see what happened. I'll tell you that too. Instead of the machine really forcing that needle through, what it did is it shuddered like that to try to get the needle through. And since it did not, it wasn't successful, it stopped itself. So that way you're not damaging the inside of the machine. So there we go. Let me put the foot back down. Should be good to go. Clear that message off. And I have it on a slow speed again, which I probably shouldn't have it so slow, but I do. Okay, so now we're going to come here and I'm going to just secure my hem and stop the machine and cut the thread. And then I'll show you what initially caused the machine to balk, and that was the fact this got turned back on itself, so it was trying to go through like 12 layers of denim right there. But now we have this great hem. Oh, let me trim off that thread. And I use yellow in the bobbin thread, but you could always use navy blue or whatever color matches. And you can tell it's going to be a lot shorter. However, you got a good looking hem there. So give it a few washes and you'll get a little bit more of that faded look there. If you want to, you could always go back with a little bit of a maybe like a Brillo pad or something, try to get some of the fading in there and antique it a little bit, and then it will look like it was there forever. So hopefully that has helped you be able to take the scare off of hemming your jeans, and we look forward to seeing you next time at our next How Do I.